It's okay. Um,
What?
okay, so my audience today is Lily, Tommy, Connor, and Zarifi. This is Lyndsay Gunther, and I'll be doing a speech on why you should recycle. So imagine walking past a landfill filled with mountains of trash, or looking at a river clogged with plastic bottles, bags, and other waste. Every day, the choices we make about what to throw away or what to recycle have a real impact on our planet. Recycling is the simple act of taking everyday items like plastic bottles, aluminum cans, glass jars, and paper and giving them a second life instead of letting them become waste. These materials are collected, sorted, and processed into new products, keeping them out of landfills and reducing the harm to our environment. Recycling matters because it does more than just clean up our surroundings. It helps save energy, conserve natural resources, and limit pollution. When we fail to recycle, harmful gases are released into the atmosphere. Landfills grow and pollution seeps into our soil and water, affecting both wildlife and ourselves. But when we recycle, we reduce greenhouse gas emissions, lower pollution, conserve space in landfills, and even create jobs and strengthen the economy. On a personal level, recycling gives each of us the power to make a difference. It makes us feel responsible, empowered, and even inspires others to follow our examples. Recycling is not just a habit. It's something that supports our planet and protects our communities and allows each of us to contribute to a healthier, cleaner future. Today, I want to show you exactly why recycling matters, what happens when we don't, and how even small actions can have a big impact. So recycling is the simple act of taking items that we use every day, like plastic bottles, aluminum cans, glass jars, and paper, and giving them a second life instead of throwing them away. When we recycle, these materials don't end up in landfill or as litter in our environment. Instead, they are collected, sorted, and processed into new products that we can use again. Recycling matters because it helps reduce waste, saves energy, conserves natural resources, and limits pollution. It's a small habit, but when practiced consistently, it allows us to make a big difference through everyday choices. An example of consequences when you don't recycle are greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases are gases in the Earth's atmosphere that trap heat from the sun. They work like a blanket around the planet, allowing sunlight to enter but preventing some of the heat from escaping back into space. This process, called the greenhouse effect, helps keep the Earth warm enough to support life. However, when there's too many greenhouse gases are released, mainly from activities like burning fossil fuels and producing waste, they trap excess heat, causing the planet to rise in temperature. Recycling reduces greenhouse gases because it cuts down on the energy needed to make new products. When materials like aluminum, paper, and plastic and glass are made from recycled items instead of raw resources, factories use much less energy. Since most energy comes from burning fossil fuels, using less energy means fewer greenhouse gases, like carbon dioxide, are released into the atmosphere. Recycling also reduces the amount of waste sent to landfills, where trash can produce methane, a powerful greenhouse gas. By lowering and by recycling, individuals help lower emissions at multiple stages of production and waste management. Another adverse side effect of not recycling is pollution. When we talk about pollution in the context of waste, trash, and not recycling, it refers to the contamination of the environment caused by improperly managed materials. This happens when garbage, like plastic, metal, paper, or chemicals, is thrown away instead of being recycled. Trash in landfills can leak harmful chemicals into the soil and groundwater, while litter and plastic waste can enter rivers, lakes, and oceans, harming wildlife and ecosystems. Recycling certain materials reduces the environment impact of waste by lowering the energy and resource demand that leads to pollution. For example, a report featured on Science Daily found that advanced plastic recycling process can reduce the need of fossil energy resources by up to 97%, compared to landfilling and significantly lowering carbon dioxide emissions. When plastics are turned into new products instead of being discarded, this means recycling doesn't just keep waste out of the environment, it also cuts down on the pollution by extracting and processing new raw materials. As environmental expert Lori Brenner says, recycling reduces pollution by minimizing the need to extract, process, and transport raw materials, which are inherently polluting activities. But not all is lost. There are many benefits to recycling that can reverse this. Recycling reduces greenhouse gases, pollution, and the amount of waste in landfills by cutting down on the need to make new products from raw materials. When we recycle materials like aluminum, paper, plastic, glass, factories use less energy, which means fewer greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide are released into the atmosphere. Recycling also reduces pollution because producing goods from recycled materials creates less air and water contamination than extracting and processing raw resources. Finally, recycling keeps materials out of landfills, which slows the growth of these waste sites and prevents harmful chemicals from leaking into soil and water. Recycling also protects the environment by cutting down on the harmful impacts of extracting and processing new materials. For example, research reported on Science Daily shows that recycling lithium-ion batteries can produce up to 61% carbon emissions and use 63% less energy and 79% less water than mining and processing the same materials from scratch. Meaning far fewer pollutants are released into the air and water when we recycle instead of relying on this raw resource extraction. And recycling doesn't help the environment, it also creates real jobs and boosts the economy. And according to the US Environmental Protection Agency's Recycling Economic Information Report, recycling and reuse activities supported about 681,000 jobs in the United States, generating billions in wages and tax revenue. This means that the work of collecting, sorting, processing, and manufacturing recycled materials directly employs hundreds of thousands of people and helps support many more in related industries. As recycling industry leaders pointed out, recycling is not only an asset to our environmental and social goals, but a boost for our economy, highlighting that expanding recycling programs can create more employment opportunities while supporting sustainable economic growth. In addition to recycling, you feel more responsible and empowered. Recycling gives people a simple, everyday way to take action for the environment, and that can make a big difference in how you feel about your impact. When you sort your trash and choose to recycle, you are actively contributing to reducing waste, conserving resources, and protecting ecosystems. This small, consistent activity can create a sense of personal responsibility because you see firsthand how your choices matter. It makes you feel empowered, knowing that even one person can make a measurable difference, and your efforts add up over time and can inspire others to follow your example. In short, recycling turns what might feel like an overwhelming environmental problem into something you can actively do something about. And you set an example for those around you. In a longitudinal field experiment in Quzhou, China, researchers tested the effect of social norm messaging on household recycling. In the study, households received flyers comparing their recycling levels to those of their neighbors. And over the 5-month period that messaging continued, researchers found that recycling participation increased, in demonstrating that when people are reminded of how others around them recycle, they are more likely to recycle themselves. This effect even spilled over to increased support for broader waste prevention and eco-friendly policies, though the influence faded somewhat once the messaging stopped. In conclusion, recycling is far more than just separating your trash. It's a powerful way to protect the environment, conserve energy and natural resources, and reduce pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. Every item we recycle keeps waste out of landfills, saves wildlife and ecosystems, and even helps create jobs, and it has strengthened our communities. On a personal level, recycling gives us a sense of responsibility and empowerment, reminding us that our individual choices truly matter. And as research shows, when we recycle, we inspire those around us to do the same, creating a ripple effect of positive change. So the next time you hold a plastic bottle, aluminum can, or scrap of paper, remember, you have the power to make a difference by taking a few simple steps to recycle. You're not just reducing waste, you're helping build a cleaner, healthier, and more sustainable world for everyone. Recycling is one small action that, when done consistently, has the power to create big change.